First meeting of 2020. Hooray.
Woohoo.
Commissioner Wilkes is here. Commissioner Kennedy is here. Commissioner Passos is here. The consent agenda. I would like to make the addition of, on the agenda of consideration of a public utilities solar project, as mentioned in my memo, and the possibility of acquiring a Cedar Grove business site for that solar project. So that would be an agenda addition, and then the other agenda addition would be the electric vehicle charging program. Discussion about that, both of those would be for discussion. And then finally, the Carolyn Grant Foundation letter that I emailed out today, I'd like that put on the agenda as well. So with those three additions,
I would make motion to approve the consent agenda with those three additions.
Second.
okay, any other thoughts, concerns, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Then let's talk first about the solar project. I can give you a little history on that, kind of the last iteration of the solar project that fell through because of the SIMPA decision not to allow the larger allocation of the favorable pricing rate. I kind of went over that in the memo. I attended the SIMPA meeting a month ago, and basically they weren't having that. For a good reason. It was basically because all the other members wanted to use their own allocation of the favorable pricing. So
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize they all had the projects kind of going.
Mhm.
So that leaves us
So is there a
with,
timeline on when they have to actually initiate those projects, or can they just kind of hang out there with a kind of a concept or an idea and, leave the capacity kind of untapped, or?
I think there is a timeline. I can't remember what it is. I think it's another year or something though.
So maybe if some of the communities didn't decide to go forward with projects they're thinking about, there might still be some available capacity.
Oh, I see what you're saying, like in a certain amount of time. That's a good
Yeah.
point. We could check back.
We could.
I mean, well intentions don't always mean
Right.
that
Yep.
the projects get done, so, I would hate to lose out on the opportunity if we felt that we still wanted to proceed and pursue something in addition, and they had the capacity to take this on.
Yeah, and I think I definitely made it clear that we were interested, and so that could be an ongoing possibility, certainly.
If nothing else, maybe it drives the other communities to make a decision.
Sure. And I guess kind of going through that process, it occurred to me that, well, Grand Marais still has our remaining 21.8 kilowatts of allocation. And I thought that it seemed appropriate that we might just go ahead and use that up. It's kind of a small amount, but I would like to do that. I would like to do it this summer. I would, during the course of kind of investigating the larger project, we thought about getting a lot at the Cedar Grove Business Park, and Mary is here to listen and maybe talk a little bit about that. But so it occurred to me that maybe we should continue that process of acquiring the Cedar Grove lot with the idea that it would be a site for the smaller project this summer, but also a site for future projects, as we develop more solar capability.
How difficult is it if we started with a, 21 kilowatt project to add to it later?
I think it's very easy.
Okay.
I think you can just stack them up, and it's just a matter of wiring them together. I'm not an electrician, so I'm probably oversimplifying that, but I kind of think it's pretty close to that.
What is the size of the lot at Cedar Grove?
We had been requesting a 1 acre piece of whichever lot that was.
Lot 7, block 4.
I can
Thank
show
you.
you.
Yeah.
And I believe that lot is maybe 3 acres total.
Okay. So we would
Sounds
just.
like Mary's gonna get a map.
So we would just purchase a portion, that's the thought, is we would just purchase a portion of that lot.
That was the first thought. My thought now is that we go ahead and acquire the entire lot with the
Okay.
idea that that gives us some space.
Mhm.
Thanks,
Won't be
Mary.
very user-friendly to the viewers, but
Yeah.
it is the bottom acre of this lot right
Mhm.
here.
Okay.
So maybe the total acreage of that lot might be like 2.5.
It's almost 3. It's
Yeah,
2.97.
Yep.
So it would be this chunk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are there
And-
any provisions or restrictions that restrict us from separating or splitting a lot?
No, what was discussed at the, if it's appropriate for me at this time to say,
Please.
this request came to the EDA board meeting of December, whatever it was. Excuse me, and the EDA board approved selling that lot, that 1 acre, if the county and the city approved.
Yeah.
And it was gonna be selling it for a nominal
Mhm.
fee. But we would seek, you would seek with our support, the approval from the city and the county. Because it will take the, that piece of land off of the tax rolls
Right, right.
if it becomes then city property. Or the PUC is a separate entity, but it's public anyway.
Mhm.
Okay, question? So how much of the 1 acre do we estimate that 21 kilowatts would take up?
10%.
Okay,
So it's really pretty small system.
right, okay.
Mhm.
Well, I think, we should pursue that because, I mean, at our last meeting, we talked about, trying to find a location that we could do this. And since we didn't have anything secured, we were really not able to move forward with that last project concept. And
Well, it became kind of a rush thing at the end, and
right, but I think, but again, at any time we're thinking about where could we locate this, if we don't have land that we actually control, set aside, we're always gonna be kind of chasing this, and so if we can acquire this to set aside for this purpose, regardless of whether we do this project or a future project, would give us the site that we think is, reasonable and appropriate and, going to be effective for solar installation.
I guess I asked that question about how much of the 1 acre would it take, because if people are concerned about taking land off the tax rolls, maybe we don't need to buy the whole lot. Maybe we only need 1 acre,
Mhm.
if we're only gonna use 10% of it. I don't know, just an idea.
Well, but it sounds like you would use 10% of the 1 acre.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is
So, yeah.
roughly
Oh,
four
so
see what I'm saying.
4,000 square feet, which is, pretty small.
Mhm. But Tim, are you saying to go ahead and acquire the entire lot?
Well, I think that acquiring the whole lot gives us options and, should we decide 2 years or 5 years down the line that we don't need the whole thing, we could release the portion that we don't think we would necessarily use, but I think we should keep our options open to acquire the whole lot and not constrain ourselves. I mean, there certainly hasn't been a demand for this lot up to this point, and because its location next to the Como tanks, the likelihood is that anybody that's looking for a parcel in the business park is not going to be particularly looking for this
right.
this site anyway, unless they're doing something that's pretty passive. So,
That's a good point.
And I guess I kind of agree that the idea here is to kind of have a space for the future. This solar thing is probably going to be an issue, having a site for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, and it's not taking it off the tax roll because it's not on the tax rolls right now.
Well, there you
So
are.
it's not,
okay.
it's not changing,
There we go.
changing
Found it that
anything. And if anything, if we do some development on the lower portion of it and we release the upper portion of it for sale, it might be something that instills some kind of a interest in the adjacent parcel. Maybe somebody has some kind of a business that, might benefit, I mean, I don't know what that might be, but,
Spruce the place up a little bit anyway. Nice pretty panels.
yeah.
Not that it needs sprucing up, but it certainly wouldn't detract from the.
So, do you want a motion?
Sure. And I guess the other motion would be
Want
to
to see the map?
proceed with a, kind of development of a plan to put in 21.8 kilowatts this summer. Maybe those would be separate?
Probably two separate motions,
Okay.
I would think. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah,
This is.
I mean, one is kind of,
they're separate.
the driveway going
Yeah.
into the program place. I don't know where, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I just had this thought, and maybe we all can look at this together. So you're looking at the bottom of this lot right here?
Well, we're looking at the entire lot.
Oh, okay. Because what just occurred to me is to access only the bottom portion, I suppose you could just put in a culvert and build a driveway over the ditch. Otherwise, you would maybe want to ask these Como people if you could have an access through there. Okay, so I just.
There is a
looking-
ditch.
Yeah,
Yes.
all of a
There's actually
sudden, it wasn't
major-
making sense to
major
me,
ditch.
how were you gonna get in there, but you can just build a bridge over the ditch, or put a culvert in the road over the ditch, or whatever, so.
And this
okay.
is
Would-
and this is wetland here?
It's wetland, but it's been mitigated, so
Okay.
it's totally built, the whole lot in its
Okay.
entirety is buildable.
All right.
And this trail easement, I don't, Tim, do you?
does not exist.
It's
Does-
not
it does-
really-
Does not exist, and it will, I don't think will ever be utilized as a
Because
trail.
the trails are here.
Trail is along the west property line.
Right.
Right on the west line.
Right,
there,
yeah.
yeah.
So, so the ditch is the only concern, and that's not insurmountable by any means, so.
The other concern would be that there is forest on this lot, and so there would be some site prep to do. It's not like it's a nice,
It's not a baseball field.
no.
There are setback requirements for development. I assume we still would have to have a stormwater plan, even though we're not placing any buildings on the property.
Right.
At least the thought would be that we wouldn't be placing buildings.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a difficult stormwater plan to prepare, unless or until you put in a hard roof, or,
Right.
I mean, it's gonna change the vegetation, and the panels themselves are a hard surface, but we can look at all those considerations.
Yeah, one neat thing
For
that.
you to consider, not for the EDA, but.
Mhm. One neat thing about these ground mount systems people are doing is kind of basically installing prairie underneath of them.
Just gonna,
So you get a little bit of
Yeah.
a, ecosystem benefit out of the land, even though you have panels on it. It's not just dirt.
or people are gardening as well.
Do you know, and I don't think this has ever been brought up, but is there an ability to bring in access off of, is that 7th Avenue East?
It is 7th Avenue East.
Is that a possibility? I mean, we're not looking at a lot of traffic, so it's not like we're gonna be running. I mean, people aren't gonna be running in and out of there every day, so.
Right.
Well, I mean, I would guess we would put a gate on whatever we have, whatever kind of access we have, there's people aren't driving around.
Yeah, I can't, it's just some, I haven't been up that street for a while. It's just some woods buffer in between right now. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
the outlot is the
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 outlet.
buffer to the neighbors, the
Right.
residents on
Yeah.
Seventh Avenue East.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that there's anything that prohibits an access. We probably would have to get approval of the EDA to cross outlot D.
The outlet.
But that would be a consideration. Where are we gonna access the lot from?
But is there any problem with accessing it from the Cedar Grove Road?
I think it would just be a longer
So you
road.
build a longer road.
If it
Bring it back
if it was
over
down
there.
that south end?
It was on the south end, yeah.
Because of the jog in the line here.
Ah.
You're talking about this,
Mm-hmm.
and the road is up here.
Yeah.
So you'd have to build a longer road this way.
Mhm.
But if we're talking about buying the whole lot, then
Then you wouldn't, if you took if you bought the whole thing, or if Tim's suggesting coming in on this side.
ah,
So,
Okay, to be determined?
Yeah, and it might be that's just an easement on that Seventh Avenue West, north of, that outlot B. Might be. I mean, there's three ways to look at access. One coming from the south, across Como.
there's this.
One is coming off of Seventh Avenue East, and the other is just coming off of the Cedar Grove Lane.
So Como is here,
Yes.
and they have a road. I mean, I've driven
Yes.
up into here on their land,
Yeah.
just looking at stuff,
Mhm.
Well,
seeing what's going on
their
there.
big tank is on that north
Up here.
side of the lot, yeah. So they have to get their big trucks in, so if there was a way to work with Como to just,
To go just a little bit
Access that.
farther.
mm-hmm,
Might be cheaper.
mm-hmm.
yeah, might be some benefit to that.
Okay.
Okay. If we do come up with a motion, there's a next EDA meeting, and there's an EDA meeting in February, around the middle of the month.
Yeah, I don't want to try to squeeze this onto the January agenda now. It's getting kind of late for
Yep,
that.
and we don't need to.
We're not in a hurry.
But it might be nice to get it on to the February
February
agenda,
would be fine. Yeah.
with the idea that some things would have to happen, start in motion if we wanted to put a solar system in place this summer.
Do we have a sense of what the cost would be if we wanted to purchase the whole lot?
Well, at the last EDA meeting, they offered to sell us 1 acre for $1, contingent on city and county approval.
Mhm.
Seems reasonable.
So then it would be $3.
Yeah. $2.97.
Yeah, but a very cheap price like that would obviously be
Right.
helpful to the PUC.
Yeah.
and
Well, I would make a
public
motion
benefit.
that we pursue with the EDA, the acquisition of that lot,
Block 4.
Lot 7, Block 4.
Lot 7, Block 4 of the Cedar Grove Business Park for future development of a solar, community solar, well, not even community, it's the solar system.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion about that? And I guess the only thing, again, is that I would hope that could get before the EDA for their February meeting. And I guess that would be up to Mike to kind of make sure that works for him. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the second kind of item there was the idea of a solar project for the summer using the remainder of the SIMPA solar buyback
Excuse
program.
Thanks, Mary.
myself.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll stand by.
Thank you.
Okay.
And again, I think that would be, a good idea. I'm in favor of that. I think that, developing some solar is expensive as a renewable energy source, but continued investment in that is a good idea because it strengthens that industry and creates the situation where those prices can continue to come down. And that's such a promising technology that's warranted. And the PUC should continue to invest in solar in a modest, to a modest degree.
Do you have any idea of what the cost of that project would be?
Yeah, it'd be about $2.50 a kilowatt. So,
Do you mean a watt?
yes, a watt, I'm sorry. So $50,000.
So, okay.
And that doesn't include site prep or building a road.
Mhm. Well, and we did talk about that when we were setting our budget to, make sure we had some money set aside to allow us to do some of these projects we've been talking about.
And there of course is a payback on there. It's probably about 30 years. That's what the payback was on the last system,
Mhm.
which isn't really a payback, but it's I guess it does, it's a slow,
It's a mitigating factor.
it is, it's a slow payback.
Well, I mean, at this point, I don't know that we have to get into the details of it, but if we're gonna pursue it, I think we just have to initiate the project and start to gather that information so that we are prepared to make a more formal decision to proceed with development of the,
Yes, and that's what I thought was appropriate at this time, and then we can gather costs and
Mhm.
make a decision. I'm hopeful that a local installer could install this size of a project as well.
Well, I would make a motion that we begin the process for consideration of this 21.8 kilowatt solar project. And bring back information to the commission to further consider how that might happen.
Okay,
I second that.
any further ideas on that?
Well, I don't think we need to get into the details of this, but I see it at least in your, note here that, you wanted to offer some kind of a power incentive program to businesses that are in the business park.
Oh, I meant to mention that, I forgot when Mary was here, but yeah, that was the thought I had. That's probably a separate issue, but.
Yeah, I think it's separate, and it's probably more detail than we need to deal with at this time, but I mean, it's an interesting concept because, we haven't done that really at this point, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, maybe at a future meeting, how that might work.
Well, let's take a vote on the 21.8 kilowatt. I have a motion and a second.
Yep.
And no further discussion. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about offering a solar, to encourage solar development, but I wonder if there could also, somehow an incentive could work out where we could offer that incentive as part of a package when somebody was actually thinking about buying one of the lots, since they're not moving that fast. Maybe that would be something to throw into to sweeten the pot.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's, we would have to discuss that with EDA.
Of course,
But if the PUC wanted to put some dollars behind it,
Mhm.
some sort of a rebate,
Mhm.
I guess is what I was thinking, 20% of a system or something like that. And, I mean, we wouldn't be offering that to everybody, but again, it would kind of highlight the Cedar Grove Business Park and just be a small incentive
Mhm.
for the businesses that are there and for businesses that might want to locate there. So should we put that one off?
Well, I mean, I think we should get more information on how that might work, and, you know, I mean, it could be something that could be a real asset to the EDA in terms of marketing, development within the park. I mean,
Yeah.
if there are certain types of business uses that, you know, would benefit from that, you know, might be, you know, something they could use to attract another business or two into the park.
I think it would be a nice statement.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden, can that be one of the, or Kim, are you taking notes?
I'm jotting some notes, I think he's taking some.
Okay, just can that be on the minutes, that was discussed and had some agreement that would be a good idea to look into? Mike's going to be so proud of us.
Not gonna skip a meeting.
Should we move on to the EV charging program?
Sure.
And again, that was my thought, was I sent along the SIMPA press release about their program that Grand Marais is participating in, and Mike has been working with SIMPA to install a DC fast charger in town and 2 level 2 chargers, which are slower. And I think that's going to happen this summer. And it just occurred to me, hey, if we're working with this company, they're coming all the way up here, maybe they'd be interested in providing some sort of group buy program for area businesses, particularly our lodging businesses, I think, may not be aware of how quickly electric vehicles are moving. And that it would, I think they're going to want to have some charging capability, because I think their customers are going to start to ask for it real quick
Are
and
there
get ahead of
sites?
that a little bit.
I'm sorry, are there sites set up already for the 3 in Grand Marais?
I don't know. Hayden, do you know? Or Kim?
I'm not sure where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll most likely be on city property?
Again, they don't have to be, and
Okay.
I think so.
Well, didn't we talk about some possible sites, though? I mean, the rec park, wasn't rec park one of the sites, and wasn't the city lot here or there also one possibility? And
Yes.
This might just need some clarification from Mike, because the city lot was gonna be the one that we did with Arrowhead, and that's a different program, so I don't know which
okay.
is which, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I plead ignorance, and Mike and I have missed with our vacation time over this last month. So, yeah. So I think that this one might be one to, you know, there's no real hurry here, but I just wanted to get that idea out there. And, you know, I had planned to talk with Mike to get more details on that, but maybe just wanted to get a preliminary indication if you two thought that was worth pursuing.
I think it's continuing the conversation that we've had, you know, previously, and, you know, which, well, I think we should continue that to find out how we get this put in place, yeah.
Okay, and again, the idea is that the PUC would offer some sort of rebate or incentive to incentivize and encourage, well, residents and business owners to install that technology.
So how does that work? I guess I'm not very familiar with the chargers. So if somebody, let's say the radio station wanted to have one.
Okay.
So you purchase this piece of equipment, and then does the person who owns the thing pay for the electricity, or is there some way that the person who's plugging in pays, or how does that work?
I think, well, let's talk about residential.
All right.
That's the simpler one.
All right.
Then the resident owns it and supplies the electricity and pays for the electricity.
Okay.
And that's going to be like 90% of charging takes place at homes.
Okay.
For lodging, probably the lodging establishment would own the equipment and could then either decide to charge the customer or not. It's not very expensive to charge a vehicle.
Okay.
And in most cases, it's not worth putting in the technology to
Collect money.
collect the money.
All right.
I guess I'm not real clear on commercial ones, and then on city-owned ones, you can go either way. And I guess I don't know if these would be, I'm sorry, I don't know if the chargers would be, the city ones would be ones where the person plugging in their vehicle would get charged or not. I think they are. Do you have any idea, Hayden?
I think the fast charger, because it's such a higher voltage, is the one that you charge for, because it's a lot harder to draw on the system.
Okay.
And then the normal chargers are just, it's kind of.
The level 2 ones
Yeah.
are a wash? Okay. Okay.
I saw somewhere like $10 for 30 minutes on the fast charger.
Yeah, because it's a really heavy
Huh.
draw.
Okay.
And that 30 minutes would pretty much
Good
charge
enough.
up your vehicle too, I think. So it's like getting a full tank of gas.
Yeah.
And the electric guy said then that a transformer would need to be sized to fit those.
Mhm. And that would be a credit card sort of situation.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably at the lodging establishments, you would need a level 2 because people are going to charge overnight.
Sure.
So they may just have that be part of, just a perk of staying there.
Okay. I think it's great. We should pursue it.
Okay. Should we just put that in the minutes as something that we're interested in? Anyone think we need a motion for that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Can we go on to the Carolyn letter and the CCLEP grant? And I think I mentioned this last month, is that CCLEP was applying for this grant from the Carolyn Foundation to hire a part-time coordinator for 3 years, $25,000 a year, to facilitate solar energy development countywide, working with PUC, Arrowhead, nonprofits, and residents and businesses. I supplied a little kind of a description of what the grant proposal was. There's one change I'd like to make to that, and that was, I described it as a 200 kilowatt, that the larger solar installations being considered were 200 kilowatts to 500 kilowatts. I would amend that to say we will be considering, or CCLEP will be considering 200 kilowatts to 2 megawatt systems in conjunction with storage. So it's actually some pretty big systems that are going to be assessed for feasibility. And I hope that you'll agree that I think the PUC should be supportive of this grant proposal, and I think CCLEP, this is a good thing for CCLEP to do for the community, and that it really doesn't cost, PUC isn't making any commitment here other than to support the grant proposal and to work with the CCLEP on solar energy issues, as we already are doing.
So basically, you're asking for the PUC's endorsement of this idea.
Yes, and then I supplied a letter, a short letter that would be the wording of the endorsement that we would send. There is a timeline constraint here. We would actually like this letter to be ready to go by Friday. So I was hoping we could approve this by motion today. And Hayden, can you put, or Kim, can you put this into a letterhead and get it electronically available by Friday? Okay, thank you.
Well, I move that we support this grant and send this letter to the Carolyn Foundation.
I'll second that, but can you, is the money, the $75,000, is that the entirety, or are there other matching portions that will be involved, or other?
That's the entirety of it.
Okay.
And I think each year is contingent on kind of success of the year. So it's really $25,000 for 3 years, contingent upon everything
Okay.
going well.
Okay.
The match would be, there isn't a formal match at all, but I think our involvement would be that, obviously we would be, if we decide to, we would be investigating the feasibility of a larger scale solar system with storage capability. We might participate in the residential and commercial solar educational programs to the extent we'd like to. And then the solar workforce training part of it, again, there might be some participation by us if we want to. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
And there's no other organizations, other than CCLEP, obviously, is going to be contributing board member time.
Resources.
And probably our limited half-time staff person would be working on this as well.
Yeah, I had just not been aware of the Carolyn Foundation, so I just wasn't sure, what their requirements were, if there was required matches, or, how they worked.
I think it's pretty much no strings. And was that a second?
I thought I did second it before.
Okay, I think you did. Further discussion, I would change one line here. It's in the second to last sentence, and there's semicolons there, and after the last semicolon, as it's written now, it says, "and further the development of local solar installation business opportunities." I would like to rephrase that to say, "and create training opportunities for local solar installers." So a little less broad there. I was
Okay.
informed that I had gotten too excited about
George,
that.
too excited, huh? And to create,
Training opportunities for local solar installers. And with that addition, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All right. Ann, did you want to say anything about your work with
Oh,
Nancy?
yeah, I've been working with Nancy Kelly from SIMPA on a residential energy efficiency workshop, and we just nailed down some dates, which are the evening, make sure I'm saying it right, the evening of Tuesday, March 24th, and lunch hour of Wednesday, March 25th. And Nancy's been developing an outline for what we're going to cover, and I will help to do the promotion and marketing and figuring out who should be invited, and I mean, anybody is welcome, of course, but who we should definitely reach out to for sure. And she and I are going to meet again in a couple weeks when she comes up next to get more details down. But it'll be held at higher ed.
Okay. And have you been, sounds like Nancy's been coordinating with Shane and Matthew at CCLEP, Shane at Climate Action Plan.
Yep.
And what will be the focus of the workshop?
Let me see if I have that somewhere. Sorry, while I find it, maybe we can go on to something else.
That's okay. I imagine it'll be lighting opportunities for
Yes.
residences.
I think it's energy efficiency as well.
That's the broader
Yeah.
issue, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Residential energy efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And I know SIMPA's got rebates for electrical appliances,
And heat pumps, heating and cooling things.
so I imagine Nancy would go over those.
Yes, and talking about managing personal energy use, we would do a hopefully do a laptop-based activity on how to use that home energy analysis thing that you can plug your information into and find out how your house is doing. Rebate coverage, handing out LED lights. Possibly, we were talking about maybe if we had power monitors that we could loan out to people. So those are some of the things. And there will be more.
Good, sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
It
Yeah.
does.
And higher ed is gonna market this too, so we'll.
I have to talk to them about that. I wanted to nail down the room first.
Well, you got some time,
Yes.
and that should be, I mean, I imagine people will be interested in that. It'll save some money.
That's what I would think. I mean, it's going to be just an hour long, so it's not going to, go on for a huge length of time. So hopefully do it right over the lunch hour, and then at the end of the day, another day, so that people have 2 opportunities to attend.
Okay. I had one thing. You guys have gotten a doodle poll about trying to schedule a meeting with SIMPA staff coming to Grand Marais to talk about their resource plans for the future and decarbonization efforts. And it sounds like that there was a couple dates in March that are still being considered. I think we're kind of waiting to hear from Mike, so it might be another week or 2 till we get a firm date on that, but I'm looking forward to that. That should be a good opportunity to kind of try to assess, again, that the 2 different pathways of decarbonization, the decentralized, how much do we put into local solar installations versus how much do we depend on the grid being decarbonized. Get a real feel for how serious SIMPA is about that.
Great. So you're thinking it might be one of those March dates then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully, again, Mike will get on that when he gets back, and, yeah. Anything else? Ski report?
I wish I was out skiing.
Do you have a meeting after this?
City council at 5:30, so, or 6:30, so.
Plenty of time.
Oh, plenty of time, yeah, I would think so.
It's been nice.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much. We are adjourned.
very good. Yeah, we weren't pressured today, no planning commission meeting today.
Is here. Open forum. Nobody here. Close open forum. Move to consent agenda. Consent agenda has a typical 3 items on it: the agenda, the meeting minutes, the payment of bills. Also, the 2020 reimbursement rate, which goes from 58 cents a mile to 57.5 cents a mile, and a fire grant agreement, which is for training for the fire department. So unless someone would like to pull something for discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
I will make a motion, and just noting that we have the payment in there for over $1 million to Ehlers for our debt bond that we are
For refinancing
refinancing.
of the Cedar Grove Business Park.
Yep. So that's a good thing to have on the public record, just so that people know that's when this is when that happened.
Right.
Okay, anything else? So you have the motion.
I have a
With that
motion.
note, is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? As discussion, I intend to abstain because there's a check in the payments that is going for services rendered to my wife professionally for training for library staff. So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1 abstained. Moving right along, appointments to boards and commissions is what we have next. Let's do the citizen appointments first. So we have 2 people who have shown interest in the library board, 1 person for the park board, 1 person for the planning commission. Believe that in the past we've done each of these independently, I believe, right?
Yep.
So, I don't know how you want to do it, if somebody wants to make a motion for for the ones that just have one candidate, or if you want to
I'd make a motion
discuss.
to approve Stacy Hawkins for the planning commission.
All right, there's a motion, is there a second? Ooh.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second, any further discussion? Is she, I thought she was already is serving on that.
She
She
is.
is an incumbent.
Re-
Okay,
Has to
so
be
this,
reappointed.
okay, so it just didn't get listed as an incumbent on there, gotcha.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next one, anybody? Bueller? Sorry, I can't help it. I didn't mean to say that.
Let's see.
I would make a motion to appoint Cooper Turns to the library board.
I just have one comment about that. His wife works at the library,
I was wondering about that.
and that may be a conflict.
We should talk to,
Do you have a
Let's see.
comment about that, Chris?
There's the potential that there could be a conflict at times, you know, to the extent that, I mean, just because you have a potential conflict of interest doesn't preclude you from being appointed to a board or commission, but when a conflict does come up, the conflict has to be properly handled. So for example, if there was something that was coming before the library board that involved a direct or indirect, you know, financial benefit to that particular board member, they obviously could not participate in the discussion or vote. So the issue would be, you know, to the extent that issues are coming up before the library board, if this person is going to have conflicts that come up regularly, then there's an issue about, okay, is this person really going to be able to exercise their best judgment in being on the board? However, if the fact that his spouse is an employee of the library and that the library board does lots of other things besides deal with just personnel issues, and they do all sorts of other business where he is not going to otherwise run into conflicts, then he may very well be a good candidate for being on the board. So I think that's what you have to weigh.
and so we have a motion. You made a motion for that. So is
I would second it so we can have discussion.
discussion? Okay, cool. So moving on to discussion, I appreciate that. I mean, I know Cooper. I know that he's he's very intentional, and you know, he's a very he would make a very good board member. I also have to speak to John Books as the incumbent. He has proven himself to be a very good board member as well, and you know, has been the secretary in the past. So,
Is there any reason there's not a application
I was wondering that.
from John?
uh,
I mean,
That's a
I don't
good question.
know
He
who
indicated in
he
writing
is.
to me that he wanted to be considered, but I thought that he had sent it to the city as well, to Patrick as well. But he indicated both at meetings and to me in writing that he wanted to be that he wanted to serve his second term. So that's probably an oversight on my part.
Well, I've been,
Kind
I
of
mean, I
into that
guess to
stuff,
help. I think the stuff that Cooper has written is good, and I like the message that he has, but, and I like that he took the time to take a little bit of extra time on it, but it's hard then if there was somebody that's an incumbent that's been serving and is the secretary even, to not really have any information. I don't know who that person is.
I don't either.
Oh,
I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, and my reasoning, you know, for supporting Cooper is, you know, I mean, I'd like to see young people get involved in our community and take active roles. You know, I think future of our community is with young people, and you know, even though you know, I mean, like I say, I don't know, you know, how John has done what he's done on the library board, but you know, knowing Cooper, I know, you know, his commitment and willingness to serve, and just I like the idea of getting younger people involved and just support that.
In order to be fair, without knowing John's understanding, if all he thought he had to do is give a written note to you that he was still interested without information, would it, and not that it has to change our mind, but would it be beneficial to delay this 2 weeks? Are we able to allow John? I'd hate to have somebody lose their spot to say, no one told me.
right.
I feel that's unfair, and not that it has to change the decision in 2 weeks, but to allow John to fill out an application and return to us. I don't know what people think of that. I just would like to make sure that especially for an incumbent, if their interest and intent is to try to stay, that they,
We certainly can push that off.
I don't have a problem with that.
The next library board meeting is on the 27th.
But we don't need to wait till that. Somebody needs to let him know that he needs to turn his application in so we can at least look over.
Yeah, but our next meeting, I'm saying, is on the 29th.
You don't have any way of getting a hold of him?
I mean, we can get it, but
You're
I'm
saying as
the
far as
library
being-
we
board-
can't
the first
appoint
library
someone
board
till the
meeting-
29th.
Oh, yeah.
The first library board meeting is before then, so.
They have a quorum though, don't they?
We still have a quorum, yeah. That's not the concern. The concern is that then, if John comes to that meeting, then he's not gonna be an appointed, I mean, he could be a visitor, he could be there
Mhm.
watching.
Right,
see
and
what you're saying.
again, I'm not saying I know the outcome, that it would change anybody's mind of what they want to do. I just feel like we need to make it clear to John or anybody that, Stacy is on, she filled out another one.
Right, that there's a process.
That there's a process
Right.
and they need to follow that if that's
And-
their intention. Because like Anton said, I don't know anything about John.
Right.
I would at least like to see something to have an understanding.
With, and with the, I would put that, the cause of that situation on the fact that we have turnover at the library right now in the director position, because that's usually been something that the library director has taken care of. As far as like compiling the applications that come in, at the library, and with an interim director in there, I think that probably was just one of the things that we just didn't know was the thing to do. So,
Well, with that, I would withdraw my motion and ask that consideration be done in the first meeting in February. I'm going to be gone for the next meeting, and, I think we should all be here, if possible, to make that call.
okay,
And that wouldn't affect the next library board meeting, since that's, what, the third?
no, it would just affect the January meeting, but in the January meeting, we're really not gonna do a ton of stuff. It's like this meeting, where we take care of officers, we take care of all the, that logistical stuff. So it shouldn't be that hard to
The only
accomplish.
struggle might be is that if John is currently the secretary, that he wouldn't be eligible to.
Somebody will take notes. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. So, I'll just
Or he
make
wouldn't be
sure-
able to be appointed to continue to be secretary, I
Right.
guess is my point. He couldn't be appointed for secretary.
Correct. But I'll follow up with John on that one. So then you withdrew your motion,
withdraw-
so we're gonna hold
withdraw my
off on that
motion.
one, but we got 2 of those done.
No, one. We need
We
to
got one of those
do,
done.
we need to do the park board one.
Okay, so, thoughts?
Make a motion for Stephen Aldrich to be on the park board.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, cool. So then, the next thing we have, moving down the list here, is we've got the list of our appointments. Number one, is there anything, any of the boards for the past year that you have not been able to fulfill the commitment, or you'd like to change something?
I did not go to a single ARDC meeting last year.
Are those meetings down in 2 hours?
They're all over the whole Arrowhead, so they're all over. Sometimes they're in Duluth, sometimes they're in Two Harbors, sometimes they're in Hibbing, or they're just they're all over. So
Okay. See, that's gonna be a hard one to fill, because it's
that's
hard.
what happened last year too.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to do it, and
Should we
so
just
I just
nominate
stayed
Craig
on.
for it?
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't show up in the first meeting of the year.
Well,
I
I
mean-
think that it would probably be realistic for us, instead of leaving your name on there, to remove it and just have it be open. Because I can't commit to going to these meetings. Are they bi-monthly, or are they quarterly? Do you remember, Anton, or
I think
anybody?
they're
I think they're quarterly.
quarterly. Yeah.
Did you go to some of those meetings when we, like, throughout the past years? Have you been to any of those meetings?
Yeah, but I've been to, I think
Just a
I've been
few.
on ARDC since I
Right.
was appointed, and or was elected, and I think I've been to 2.
So what kind of stuff do they discuss at those meetings? Not to get into the minutia, but is it
Well,
Just
I
what
think,
they've
I don't
been
know
up
if
to?
there's been a little bit of a changeover on things maybe when I went and
So can you find
I-
it online?
I did not, I know it's like important work, but I just,
Right.
to find it, you know, I mean, it's a whole day. If it's, I mean, even if it's in, I went to one at Cove Point Lodge and even that one was, you know,
Mhm.
I was gone all day. So if I,
Right.
you gotta travel 4 hours somewhere.
Right. For a,
And there's been a lot, or there's been several meetings that have just, they haven't had enough people, so they,
oh, for real?
you know.
Well, that's rough. Well, I would suggest then that we take your name off of that and have it be open. And then maybe we can contact ARDC and get more information about this and say, you know, why this is a problem for us and see if there's some other way that we can have somebody participate, you know, call in, you know, whatever. And, you know, have the meeting here. But
Yeah.
that's probably not gonna work. But then we can revisit that one if if we can come up with a different idea for it. Does that work for everybody, or is that? It's kind of weird to have an open spot on there, but I think it's probably more truthful than having, you know, pretty much everybody on our council is not going to be able to go to those meetings.
Is there an ability to send a staff person to the
ARDC?
meetings, just to gather information, or if there's anything relevant that, you know, we should be aware of? I mean,
Well, this also states on their website that an at-large member from Grand Marais is Mary Somnus.
She has gone to some of those meetings, but she doesn't make it to many of them either.
Okay, there's also, and I don't know, a Gordon Salisbury from Hovland.
Oh, Gordy, yeah. He got appointed last year.
Okay,
So
Is he a citizen representative? or-
citizen representative, yep.
Cook County's county board rep is Ginny Storley,
Okay.
so she might be a good person to visit with and see what she can tell us or share information.
Okay.
Bobby is on here as part of Grand Portage Tribal Council.
Oh, really?
He's on everything. I don't know how he does it and works too.
Okay, so how does that sound? Does anybody have any feelings about leaving that open and then getting some more information and revisiting it?
It's fine by me.
Does everything else work on that list, or is it? Is there anything else we'd like to move around a little bit? I have not really gone to many of the CCLEP meetings. They just do not jive with my schedule well. So I don't know if anybody else feels passionate about those. Otherwise, I can keep up with their updates and things like that, and let the city know what's happening with their updates when they send them to me. But I haven't been able to attend many of those meetings. So.
Yeah, it's hard. Some of these are like YMCA starts at 4:30. I usually get there at 5:15.
Right. Yeah.
North Shore Management is quarterly, but it has not fallen right. I'm hoping to get there this month.
Okay.
So
if this works, at least is as good as we're going to get it, then we may as well just go for it. With that change mentioned. So, anybody have a feeling about that, or anything else they want to change?
Sounds great.
All right.
Yep, I think that's fine.
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the council appointments with the removal of Anton Moody from the RTC board, with the understanding that we will gather some more information about service on that board and see if we can find another way to fill it. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. So thank you all that's a lot of things for this board. I know that the county has 30 or 40 of these boards and committees that they sit on, but this is still quite a few for us as well. Next thing on the agenda is the acting mayor. So I intend to be around for most of the of the meetings, but there's gonna obviously be a few that I'm not gonna be around for. So who wants to do it?
I make motion that we appoint Anton Moody as the acting chair. He did such an admirable job in your,
I heard it was a really short meeting.
They're
That-
much faster.
It was back to back. You were
Incredible.
gone for a long time.
Well, that was,
Yeah.
Long time.
there were
Yeah.
a lot of, there were things that happened. Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Great,
What?
more vacations for
You want to
me.
jump off the bus, Anton?
So that's fine.
All in favor?
Arrow.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Cool. Next thing we got,
Congratulations.
get that man his sash.
So if
Acting
Jay
mayor.
decides that like in April he's moving, and does Anton get to take over and run the world then?
I don't think that's how it
We'll
works.
probably have to run the meetings until there's a,
Oh,
Yeah, I think that then it's an appointment, yeah.
but
of
you're
the
not
council.
running away and leaving, so.
although there's an election, your election is coming up, so there
2020.
actually would be, it's not enough time to call a special election, would be my guess, right?
Yeah, so they'd probably just be acting, you could appoint someone, but then
They would be.
there would be an election in the fall.
Yeah. You're not going
So-
anywhere unless you win the lotto.
Even if I win the lotto.
You
I'm
might
not
go
going
to go to a warm location.
I like the cold. Okay, next thing. Designating the official newspaper. We got one bid for the official newspaper from, you guessed it, Cook County News Herald. Prices stayed the same from last year. Any conversation? Any?
Just one question I have is that, we're publishing our minutes, right? And do you know how much money we actually spend annually for publishing our minutes?
Not off the top of my head.
Ballpark?
I want to say it's usually a $300 or $400 bill for like what was in there this past week.
Well,
3-4 meetings. It's
Do we submit for them to publish then?
mhm.
Oh, because it was June's.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's why I'm wondering is that, the timeliness of publishing our minutes, really how effective that is. And, we broadcast our meetings, they're accessible, other ways. I'm just wondering if, the time of print media kind of is starting to lose its attraction, and, if we're paying for something that we're really not getting much bang for. I mean, if we're publishing minutes from June in January,
Well, is that, unfortunately, how come it takes that long?
As far as I understand it, Mike, or do you do it now? You send the text file to
I
the
think this last
newspaper.
time there was a mix-up, and it generally would be closer to like 2 weeks prior to minutes.
Yeah.
So this
Wow.
one was a mix-up that we hadn't sent the June one, so we sent it in.
There was me and Hayden weren't aware of how we were supposed to be doing things.
Oh, the process.
Yeah. So
Okay.
from now on, it should be like I'm not exactly sure, but once our minutes are done, they would get, as quickly as we can get our minutes to them, it would be
The next paper.
the next paper.
Yeah.
but it's
And
always, to
they-
me, it's always seemed like it's been quite a delay
Right.
in
And-
printing, whether it's just available space or,
Mhm.
how that happens. I mean, I don't know, but, I mean,
Part of it
just
is
questioning whether
available
this is an effective means of, getting people to be aware of, and again, if it's a couple $1,000s a year that we spend on that, and we really don't get much,
It's definitely not the only means.
Well, that's
that we
what I
have.
know, yeah.
It's just a question of whether you think that it's important that it be there for that audience or not.
I almost think because we've rarely seen them in 2019 due to the confusion of the process, I almost feel like we should do it for a year now, if we can be consistent, and then see by next year, start to look at it in the fall as to, are we getting feedback? Are people, even asking people, or if people comment and say, I read the minutes in the paper, some of those things stick. I almost feel like we should have an accurate year to look at.
Mhm.
I don't disagree.
Start a process and then.
But I
and
feel
then we
like there
can-
should be some sort of process to do that. I would imagine we would almost be a month behind, because I think we would have to, and maybe Chris could help me, but we would have to approve the minutes
Yep.
before they get published in the paper.
That's correct.
Yep.
So the meeting minutes that we approved were for the meeting in January 20, whatever.
Right,
But we already missed the deadline for this week's paper
yep.
because it just got done today. So even if he sends them tomorrow, it's not gonna be.
It's not gonna be this Saturday, it's gonna be
It's gonna be
next
following
The
Saturday.
following week, which would be
But-
from our
so
last meeting.
That's, I guess, my question is like, so
It's
if the
almost
ones
a
that were
month-
just
About a
in
month
there
behind.
or were in June, does that mean we still have June, July, August, like all those, or was there just like one that didn't get?
I think we sent a big batch and now we should be caught up, is my understanding.
Oh, so
That
that's
just
all they
happened.
printed.
But
I
all they
wonder if-
printed was that,
I'm wondering if we couldn't talk to them and not, I don't know.
because they're
Doesn't-
like, what's the, if they then, if, you know, Patrick sends
Yep,
tonight's
Yep.
that we approved in, which in theory could make it, which would be within, well, a month of when we had the meeting, but,
right.
you know, as quick as we can turn it around.
What I'm wondering is, and I don't,
And-
if
but
the
they're gonna
public,
hold that one,
Right.
right? So they can print the July 15th.
I'm thinking maybe
meeting.
we should ask the paper if they would not print the remaining ones unless we hear greatly from the public, because they are on our website. People can
Don't
go
we
see
have to
them.
publish those, though, in some way, shape, or form?
They're on our website.
They're on
Chris,
our
do
web-
we have to print them in the paper?
I don't know if there's a legal requirement that you actually have to print your minutes in the paper. You probably have to post them, but I'm not sure. I mean, obviously you have to print legal notices. I'm not sure about minutes.
Yeah, because I think if, for the sake of, one, for funds, and two, for time, posting July in February doesn't do anyone any good. It's quicker to go to the website, but we could move forward and be more accurate and know, people will know now that they're about a month behind if the paper has the room to print them. If something else comes up, that's a paper decision, but as long as we're submitting them and getting them in, then in theory, they should be printed
But I think,
within a month.
I mean, I think that's the problem, is if it's like, well, there's only so much room, it seems like if we're spending that much, for that much, but it's really kind of at, I mean, if I want to sell my snowmobile, they're gonna put that in the paper,
Right.
so that it's in the paper.
Right.
But if they have the control of whether or not they print it, if they feel like adding an extra page to the paper or not, you know, if they have room, and that means they can sit and hold, like, we don't have control then of,
Yep.
you know, I mean, that would be my only thing, versus like, if there's something legal with a hearing or something that's coming up, like.
Yeah, those they have to
that
post.
totally makes sense, and like, I would say I would be happy approving, I mean, maybe it's the same but separate matters, like, approve these costs is, which is what we're being asked to do right now, it's a legal newspaper bid form, like, we approve this, but then it just becomes, what's our policy within the communication side of the city staff to what we send forward? Like, do we say, keep sending those out to the newspaper to print at their leisure? Maybe we don't, maybe it is, you know, maybe we say, let's not do that anymore. You know, we approved the minutes from the last meeting of the year of 19. Patrick can post them tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
On our site, so they're there. And we just use this, and we use the News Herald then for doing the things that we're legally bound to do for hearing and notices and that kind of stuff.
I'm good with
I mean,
that.
that's my
Yeah, no,
thought.
I'm good with that.
Sounds reasonable. Okay, so where does that leave us?
I make a motion to approve the Cook County News Herald for
Legal newspaper?
legal newspaper.
All right, and then we also, so that's the motion at hand. Is there a second for that specific motion?
I will second that.
Motion second, any further discussion? I think that as an addition to this, I mean, this doesn't have to be part of the motion, because the motion is just to approve the newspaper. But I do think that this conversation should get a little bit of, you know, we'll have the staff take a little bit of a look into that.
I mean, unless there's, like, I mean, Chris finds something else out otherwise, but if we are posting them somewhere, anybody can walk into City Hall and get our minutes. You know, again, it seems like that, I mean, that's even more accessible than the newspaper, because the newspaper costs money. If they come into City Hall, it's free. If they go on this website, it's free. So, you know, anyway, yeah, so.
Okay.
Unless there's something that's requiring us, I would say.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, wonderful. Next thing, we've got the depositories for city funds for 2020. This is the typical 5 that we use. Marais State Bank, North Shore Federal Credit Union, Security State Bank, LMC Fund, that's the Forum Fund, and RBC. So those are the banks we've historically used. Unless Kim has some feedback regarding the use of those depositories, then I would entertain a motion to approve them for 2020.
I will make that motion.
All right,
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. So the next one, we're going to have Patrick fill in a lot of the blanks on this, I think, because this is something that the administration has been working on for a way that we can do some employee recognition. It's not a really robust thing, but it's I think it's an interesting idea for us to be able to show our employees that we appreciate them, and it's not a very, I don't know, you should probably explain it, because you went through this and figured out that this is pretty much the only way that we can have like a party or something like that, and have for our staff.
Well, so in my job description, one of the bullets in the job description is develop and implement policies for employee recognition and reward, team building, and other tools to create a positive organizational culture. So this policy and program is just one of the ways that the team is looking at how do we reward employees, among a variety of other things. But the concept of doing a staff party and having like a display of recognition, this is the only way that a city is able to legally do this, is that the council believes that the program will provide a boost in morale, and that will be a benefit to the productivity of the staff. So that's the intention here, is that the employees are happier, working more cohesively, and that's better for the community. So this is just this policy is just I looked through a bunch of other cities. They're called employee recognition and reward policies, and kind of grabbed all the parts that I thought would work well for us. But happy to have you guys tweak things. So this is just, I sort of looked through a bunch of policies that Chris and his team sent to us, and pieced together the things that I thought would work, and then they readjusted it so it would be legally appropriate.
So it's broken down, the annual cost $2,500, $1,000 for employee gatherings, $1,000 for length of service gifts, and then $500 for inpatient care items, so, and memorials. And so that would be, the buying somebody flowers, or or doing something nice for somebody if they have an unfortunate situation like that. One of the questions that I have about the employee gatherings is, how do you define that? Would that be like getting snacks for safety trainings or something like that, or is that more so just like Christmas party?
The intention here is kind of like a holiday Christmas party, and then like a summer barbecue situation, and doing 2 of those annually.
Okay. Could this money be used for doing like snacks for trainings and stuff like that?
We don't need a
or?
policy to be able to do snacks for trainings.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Concerned about your party sub?
Well, I just wanted to be clear about what we were talking
I think,
about.
I guess we do need a policy to be able to do those kind of city-funded holiday parties.
for the holiday parties,
Right.
but not for like trainings and stuff
Right.
like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have employee recognition. Employees are the, backbone of what the city does. Without the services they provide, we wouldn't have anything here, and we really depend on, the quality that they bring to the community. So, I think this is great. I would support this.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
I think it looks really good.
Any other discussion? Entertaining a motion?
Well, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Just because I've worked in places that do things. And Patrick, thank you for your work on this. I do believe it's important because I think people need to know they're valued. So, and this is one way to do that. I'm wondering on memorials, and Chris probably can be a very good guideline in the event of a death, but I thought about a parent because losing a parent can be very traumatic. Even if the dollar amount were to be smaller, if we wouldn't want to include a parent there.
So you're pretty limited in terms of what you can do, and ultimately, what it comes down to is you have to basically pass a test under an employee recognition program that you basically have to pass a public purpose expenditure test, that the expenditure is related to a public purpose regarding an employee. And so the policy that is before you is drafted about as far as we can go with it.
Okay. So then my only thing is, and Patrick, you help me out to understand our length of service gifts. I just want to make sure that whatever they are, that we give something that's the same to 5 years, unless, of course, we gave examples. If you got a gift certificate to Java Moose for 5 years, and the next person comes along and hits 5 years and Java Moose is no longer in business, that's not what you do.
Get something else. Yeah.
They'd get something else, but otherwise that we try to really stay the same with each person who hits that level for continuity, because I think that's important to do that, so that others don't feel that, well, somebody really loves Dairy Queen and they got a Dairy Queen gift certificate, but I only got one to Subway,
You can get a lot of parties.
I know you can.
That's a
but-
detail, but I think maybe we could just maybe have a list and have the employee check off what they might,
That was one
appreciate.
thing I was thinking today.
Whether they drink coffee or drink beer.
You can't, I don't think as a city you can,
Give
we
a
can't
gift
provide
certificate?
alcohol.
you can't provide alcohol, no.
Can't provide a gift certificate to,
They sell food there too.
You,
Anyway.
well, I
Sorry.
think you could provide a gift certificate to an establishment that Gunflint Tavern, we don't know if they're eating or drinking, for an example.
yeah.
Chris?
But I don't think
Nothing wrong
you
with that?
can.
Yeah, I don't think we could give towards, alcoholic beverages directly.
Right.
I think if there's, a gift, and obviously it's relatively small, towards some establishment that may serve alcohol as part of someone's dinner or what have you, then it's not directly for that purpose.
Okay.
So giving gift certificates to our liquor store would be out.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Start selling hot dogs. Okay, so there's the we've got the structure of this policy, and then there are certain parts of it that we could perhaps change how the procedure, how that is implemented. But right now the policy, what's the number on this one? I've got to get back down there on my resolution 2019 well, it's actually would be 2020.
Yeah.
2020-1 would be the
Yep.
would be the resolution number. So the resolution, the way it's written, authorizes the program, and then how we choose to implement the program is something that we can work on.
Might want to make it 2020-02 since the AFSCME agreement is 01.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Way to be on top of it. Cool. So, is that all your questions on
Yep.
that one?
Yeah, because I think we can resolve that level of detail,
Yeah.
you know,
Just make sure everybody knows that.
administratively, so.
Cool.
yeah.
Anybody feeling strong on this one?
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we pass resolution 2020.
Didn't Tim already do it?
Or did he?
Did you make?
Don't
Oh.
think they made a motion, no.
Okay.
I think they,
No.
I think I just said
talking.
I
He
liked
said
it.
he would support it.
Okay.
I like
So-
it, but, yeah. I mean, I think it's a good program. I think, you know, employees need to be recognized, you know.
Do you want to second it then?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Cool. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right.
Yeah, and thank you for your work on it,
Yeah, thank
Patrick.
Yeah.
So on your, just very quickly, while you were talking, I looked up whether or not you have to publish your minutes. You are required to publish your minutes.
In the paper or anywhere?
It just says publish. The council, after every regular or special meeting, shall publish the official council proceedings. As an alternate to publication, the city may mail at city expense a copy of the proceedings to any resident upon request. The publication shall occur within 30 days of the meeting to which the proceedings relate. And this is in a section that's for newspaper publication, so even though it doesn't specifically say that, it does seem to indicate that it's newspaper publication.
Okay.
Does the newspaper then accountable to make sure that it hits that
30 days.
date criteria? If we,
I think that's probably up to the city to try and manage that.
okay.
Okay.
Conversation for you to have.
Yep. I already sent it. Okay, thank you for that, Chris. Next thing on the agenda, we have a memorandum of understanding with the AFSCME union about the property maintenance supervisor wages. So we went through an update of the points for this position in 2019. And so there's, in this memorandum, or in the memorandum of understanding, there is the modification to the points that was made and the adjustment to wage. This is the only supervisory position that hasn't been done apart from the city administrator, I believe. And you either. I don't think we've done you either, have we?
Yeah, I was.
You were done. Okay. So then you have the modified pay scale here, and since this was done in 2019, that was when the rescoring was done, and it took us until December to get it finalized and approved. Then, just like the other ones, this one is eligible for back pay to February 13th of 2019. It says 2018 in here, but it's actually 2019. So that's the result of that negotiation and the conversation that we've had about it. So
I think, the dates need to be corrected up in here too?
yes, up in the memorandum, they would have to be from.
Who prepared that?
Mike?
2019. Yeah, 2019. January 1st, 2000. Wait. We're going to have to check on this. Chris, did Mike talk to you about this one too?
I have not, I wasn't involved in either this or the
Okay.
the collective bargaining agreement
All
stuff,
right.
so.
So then we will have to, if we do approve this, then we'll have to approve it pending the correction, double checking of all the dates in it. Just to make sure that it's
Wasn't the
correct.
job classification modified in 2018? However,
The
We
points
didn't-
were not acted on until 19.
until 19.
Right.
So the retroactive pay would not go back
Go
to
to the points.
18. It would go to when we approved it, but I don't remember
Points.
that date.
I think that's the February 13th, 2019 date here, but at least that was, I believe that's what we discussed when we met with the union, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm just confused on the dates now, and
Because
Mike's
I
not
remember
here.
I remember that at that time it was when we talked about it. So Kelly and I are on the personnel committee, so we were the ones who met with the union on that one. That when we discussed, I think it was, we were talking about 8 or 9 months of adjustment, back
Mhm.
pay adjustment. So I believe that February 13th to 2019.
Well, that's
is
more,
accurate.
that's further back than what I think it was.
In February, was it like June of 2019 then? I can't remember.
It was, what had we done officially as the city? We changed the
Can you look at
points.
the minutes from February 13, 2019?
Look them up right now.
Actually, it would be June or July that we approved the change. And that, I believe, is when the retroactive pay would go to. I guess we need to have Mike here to make sure. I don't want to say it wrong, and I don't want us to approve something that's wrong.
I would concur with that. I think you should check and make sure that you have it accurate before it's approved.
Yep.
Can I make a motion to table it then until Mike gets back?
Yep, I think that's probably.
That doesn't screw anything up for anybody.
It does a little bit, but we'll deal with it.
I would second that motion.
Motion and a second. Personnel committee report. Any
Unless-
further discussion, or do you want me to
I mean,
actually
unless
look
we-
through this, or?
Unless we can find it, and then we can change it, can't
I would rather have it right the first time, because if we do something wrong,
we? I mean,
I'm-
right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
because I think that we actually have an employee that's waiting for retroactive pay.
Right, that is
So
correct.
I don't think we should approve something in which tomorrow or the next payables run, payroll, it would come out and then be wrong, and I don't want to have to
So-
tell somebody they owe us money.
February, so here we go, Personnel Committee is meeting February 11th. This was written on February 8th for the February 13th meeting, so this was acted on at the February 13th meeting to discuss the golf course superintendent search and a new job analysis for the property maintenance department.
Mhm.
After the meeting, we will forward an update discussion to the council. So that was the meeting, the 13th was the meeting that we authorized the actual reassessment.
Yep.
So then on the February 27th meeting, that one would be the one where it would show up in the meeting minutes. So let's see what that says in the minutes.
So under the third whereas, it should just be 2019.
Should be 2019, yep.
And under section 1, it should also be 2019.
Yep. And the applicable should be 2020 to 2021. And then the first whereas should be January 1st, 20 to December 31st, 21.
Yes, so that was done at the February 13th meeting, because that was in the minutes for the 27th, it says that the job description and revised rating for property maintenance supervisor has been reviewed by staff. So that's when we started, it was February 13th. So that would be the date to adjust to.
But that's not the date that he gets retroactive pay to.
I think that's what we
I think
agreed
that's
to.
it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's the one, because that's when we adjusted the numbers.
okay. Of
So
19.
if you're gonna make changes to this document, this hasn't, I mean, this needs to be agreed to by the union.
Mhm.
So I mean, if this was something that the union reviewed and they agreed to this and now we're making changes to it, it would be better for us to not act on this and make sure that the document is correct and that the union signs off on it and then bring it back to council.
Yep.
Okay, sounds
Yeah, I
good.
think
Well, that's your
that-
motion.
Well,
Just
and
to
you
table.
motion to table it.
Yeah.
Motion in a second, we've got lots of information, I think we know what the situation is, but we have to make sure that if we make any changes, the union agrees. Okay,
Well, and we also
Um,
need to make sure we have the right,
exactly, that
Right
it
dates.
communicates the right
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
because we've run into that problem before. And we thought it said one thing, but it says another.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, so I have to apologize for that one. So the next one that we have is the resolution for the 2021 2020-2021 AFSCME agreement, which is a 2-year contract that was agreed upon with the union for a 3% cost of living increase each year, and an increase to the it was the boot allowance, I believe. An
Safety
increase-
shoes, yeah.
Safety shoe allowance of $25 a year.
No,
$50 for 2 years.
for
Yeah.
2 years.
But it was increased.
It was increased $50, but it is
$50 for every 2
$250
years.
allowance for every 2 years.
Okay, words met,
Yes.
yes.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2020-01.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. All right, so, good. Let me get down here. Now we have, get down through all this information.
Council staff reports.
Isn't the one
Supervisory wages.
supervisory wages?
The
non-supervisory
non-supervisory,
non-supervisory.
Non-union supervisory wages. So as is our practice, that's, the union contract is in there, and that's really long. The non-union supervisory positions receive the same cost of living increase as the union members as well, so that would be a 3% increase for 2020, 3% increase for 2021.
I would make that motion to approve the non-union supervisor wages with a 3% increase for 2020.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. Great. Thank you for all that. Now it is time for council and staff reports. So, I'm happy to report that Councilor Schulte allegedly went to the park board meeting, so he'll probably be seeing him around more, which is great. Anton, anything?
No.
At today's PUC meeting, PUC was talking again about the solar project and the need to have a location where that might be possible. So they've been talking with the EDA about possible acquisition of a lot in the Cedar Grove Park for a solar project. We're looking at the lot that is just to the north of the Como tanks. Probably not all that exciting for other potential buyers, but its location and within the park and the fact that it is up against the Como tanks really isn't a problem for a solar project. It's pretty passive use. So the PUC is going to continue its conversations with the EDA to pursue acquisition of a lot in the business park for solar.
Cool. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Kelly?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Well, I've had quite a few things actually. This morning, actually, I went down to Duluth for a Green Steps Cities. It was a 10-year celebration / check-in for that program, which the city of Marais is a participant in. We are currently what's considered a step 2 city, in the Green Steps program, the program identifies 29 best practices for reducing carbon emissions and waste production and things like that. So we have not really been doing a very good job of filling out our forms for that, though. Planning on scheduling a date with Patrick and with Shane Steele, the Climate Action Plan Coordinator, to just sit down and just hammer it out. Because I think that if we actually sit down and fill out all the stuff that we've done, I think that will be either a step 3, easily a step 3, probably a step 4 city. And currently in the state of Minnesota, there are 133 cities that are participating in this program, and I think that there are probably about a dozen step 4 cities and maybe like 3 or 4 step 5 cities. And it's basically just it's all of these best practices, with the acknowledgement that we're not doing all the things that we're doing for climate action plans so that we can get a better Green Steps rating. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do for our community, and this is a side effect. But as long as we're participating in this program, we may as well participate in the program fully. So that's what I did this morning. That was a very interesting meeting. I met quite a few folks. It was good to meet them. Yesterday in the morning, there was a meeting in this room of a large group of downtown business owners who were talking about Highway 61, how we're going to be doing a marketing program for 2020 and 2021 to make sure that people understand that Grand Marais is open for business, and what putting signs up so that people know how to navigate around the city and find things, or at least know that once they get to this city, they can get places. Not sure what that looks like yet. I attended with 2 hats on. One of the hats that I wore, the predominant hat, was to tell them what the city's responsibility was and what the city's participation in that would be. Patrick was there as well. It was good to have him there too, to kind of back up what I was saying and to fill in the blanks where I didn't have an answer. What they're looking for is they're looking to create basically like a landing page for the construction project that has information that's above and beyond what the construction updates are. So like, information about like which businesses are impacted, which businesses are not impacted, how to get to these businesses, information about the businesses so that people know that they're still available and that they're still, they can still come and they can still do all the things that they usually do in Grand Marais. So I think it's a really motivated group. They've got a lot of really interesting ideas, and I think we need to keep telling them that they're doing the right thing and that they need to take that responsibility and continue to plan for how they're going to keep the Grand Marais businesses healthy, and then we need to figure out what we can do to help that as well. So, we talked about a lot of stuff, like how are we going to do a landing page, what does that mean, what kind of content is going to be there, et cetera, et cetera.
Who's going to maintain that page then?
They are, and that was one of
Okay.
the things that there were crickets in the room when that question was asked.
I
Like,
bet.
well, who's going to maintain this? So that was a lot of what they worked on, is whose responsibility is this. But what they're talking about is having one place that the information gets put, and then having it be available for all these other businesses to put it on their website, and for the city to put that on our website and all that sort of stuff, so that there's a clearinghouse of information that's accurate, up to date, etc. Or just links to all the accurate, up to date things. So I think that's a movement in the right direction. We'll continue to attend those meetings so that we can inform the council and also participate as necessary. Monday night, the library board had a meeting. It was a special meeting. It was here at City Hall. This meeting was to go over the library director interview questions, to create questions for the interview and create a structure for the interview process. That is completed, or it's mostly completed. the questions are still going to be workshopped at the final library board meeting of of this month, January 27th. And then after that, we're looking to do the interviews for that position January 30th and 31st. So that has not been confirmed, but that's what we're hoping. Last Thursday, I had a CEC meeting. The CEC is finalizing their, I think it's called a statement of intent, which is basically how they intend to use the authority that we've granted them for public art and for aesthetic considerations in the city. That will be up for our consideration in February, to take a look at that and to give feedback on it. So it's basically the result of us telling them we want you to be able to give us feedback on public art and help us with planning when it comes to that aesthetic kind of stuff around town. So, and they also started a committee to try and figure out a process to use to distribute the elm wood from the trees. So once they get a framework of that, they'll come to the council and then provide that to the council, and then we can give our feedback about that too and see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can send it back to the drawing board.
We chipped it up.
It hurts when you do things like that. Hurts real deep.
Now in chipboard in Canada.
That's some nice chipboard.
I'm joking, of course.
Yep.
Just better say that.
Can't breathe. I think that's everything for me. Anything else?
Yeah. Lenny is having a trackless demonstration for a new potential piece of equipment that would clear the sidewalks and bike trail at 7:30 on the January 14th.
7:30 a.m.?
a.m. And if more than 2 of you want to come take a look at it, we would have to post it. So, does anybody want to look at it?
I'd like to, but I have to be down in the Twin Cities for a doctor appointment for Beth, so I won't be able to make it.
What day is the 14th?
A
It's
Tuesday?
a Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday
I have a
morning.
feeling I haven't.
That reminds me, while people are looking, I want to say thank you to Lenny and whoever the crew was, and I may have been citizens, that came in on the Sunday of the high winds coming out of the east, when Coast Guard Point was, basically when Lake Superior was parking itself out on the Coast Guard Point, and over here by the co-op in downtown flooded. I came and took a look through a little later, and the guys were busy working, and I just want to call them out and say thank you to them publicly. I appreciate what they do. I know it's part of a job description, but when it's a weekend and it's your time, and Mother Nature messes with you, I just want to let them know I'm very grateful for their abilities and the time they put in.
I also received feedback from people in the community that were incredibly impressed and grateful with the condition that downtown was in, considering what happened, And that was, we've got a new board up in the city hall administrative area that, it's an opportunity to write things like that down. So I wrote it down, and so hopefully those guys have seen it. But I mean, the difference between what was in this parking lot over here from one day to the next was absolutely incredible. I mean, there was 8-10 inches of slush, and disgusting slush water in this. And then the next day it was gone.
Well, somebody had put out on Facebook, can't they fix it? And people are saying, do you recognize, that literally was a swamp and a pond that's been filled in.
Yeah,
So,
I commented on that post as well, and made sure that people, on one of those posts, there probably were a number of them, but I commented on one of them and explained, that this was actually designed as additional rainwater storage.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway,
it's kinda doing what it
want to
needs
say thank you to them.
Sit up at the garage.
Yes.
Okay.
So the bike path that hasn't been cleared, say past the Harriets and those, that's where they're going to demo it, and that's why they left that snow, so they would have something to
I'll let my
work
wife
with.
know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
One other quick thing I thought of, Patrick. I'm noticing, and because we haven't had snow, tomorrow will be different, people are kind of taking liberties to park as they want.
Yes.
And I recognize this is hard for people to get used to, but it might be worth us just kind of sharing reminders again through Facebook or whatever. There's a couple different businesses, and I don't know if I should make a call, if City Hall wants to make a call to remind those businesses to have people that use them. You know, I'm going to use my church, for example, put signs up on its doors as to how to do it. I think that what we sent out, but just for people to be mindful, again, if we get snow by tomorrow where there's 6-7 inches, people will know, but that people should understand it's an everyday thing. It's not just in a snow event, but that calendar parking is enforced until April 15th.
So I noticed I was out over kind of by Jay's up on First the other day, and I was plowing out a driveway, and there was a car across the street
That's been plowed in for
that's
all
been
winter.
plowed in for all winter, and it's still just sitting there.
I think
Like,
that one probably needs to get towed, yeah.
do we know why that's still sitting there?
Well, we have said we weren't going to push hard results this year, but, you know, that's probably up to us to have a conversation then, or Mike,
Well, I mean,
Patrick, with the sheriff's department to say. And
I don't know
I don't,
what the story is.
I don't know what
with
the
it, but-
county wants to, you know, I don't believe, and it shouldn't be up to the plow drivers to say, hey, this is our ordinance. So it's probably a conversation that we need to have with the sheriff's department to say, try to reach this owner.
So the sheriff's department has said that the plow driver needs to let them know that there's a problem, and then they will contact that
Okay.
owner of that vehicle.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
it
maybe
is-
that's just
yeah.
something
I mean,
to-
it is really nice, like, when you go, like, in the morning, if everybody's like, boy, to have one side, everybody on one side, the fact that you can drive down the street is, you know, because even already, I mean, they haven't gotten to the curb.
No.
And that's another thing. I mean, as far as, you know, we talk about the, you know, how this is working, you know, just iterative process, how this is
Mhm.
working. And I understand that there's new people doing it this year. I would like to see it pushed a little closer to the curb personally. And,
And they're not always using the grader, it's trucks. So at some point, it would be nice if we could have a discussion with Kristen too. I'm trying to be careful about it,
yeah.
obviously, but I've had constituents come and ask me about it and have some complaints. And I think as a group, maybe we just need to have a discussion with Kristen about maybe what's happening there. I know they were short a bit this fall, and does that cause some of that, what they've been instructed, what their expectations are, what our expectations are?
So, I mean, I guess that to follow up on what you were saying, if there is a car that's like clearly, I mean, because that was kind of part of this, was these ones that are just like, they're not going anywhere, they've been there. So like, it's up to the plow drivers to call. So like, if the sheriff's, even though there's a parking ordinance in effect, if the sheriff's department is driving by and they see a car that's got 3 feet of snow on the top of it and totally plowed in, they're not gonna try and do anything about it until a plow driver says that's in their way?
That's
Good.
my understanding.
I think we should be able to call that in. In all honesty, I don't think it should have.
I mean, not that, I don't think,
Again, I take it from my history, and I won't speak for that crew or for Kristen's authority. But I know that my husband never wanted to be the person that was not the rule maker. We made the rule,
right,
not the plow driver. So I feel like
yeah.
we need to then, if we saw it, we have an issue with it, we maybe need to call the sheriff's department and say, hey,
Well, I mean, and I'm not trying to like be like, oh, somebody watching this, like, oh, it was Anton at the city council meeting, saw your car and he's the one, but it's like, well, no, there's a rule.
yeah.
And clearly, there's no attempt being made to follow what the rule is, right? It isn't like,
Mhm.
oh, whatever. I
Mhm.
mean,
right, this is part of our,
It's
But,
what
this
it
is-
is. It isn't anybody calling anybody out. It's just this is the rule that's in effect from this to this,
Right.
and you got to do it.
yeah.
That would be my take on it.
And maybe it's just because this year was supposed to be the trial year, we weren't gonna hardball it, you know. We were gonna do this soft rollout. But when do you,
That's pretty soft, though.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
is
car-
true.
I agree,
The car is
but-
completely under an iceberg and, yeah.
yep, I'm not disagreeing, I think it needs to go, but I think what we're trying to decide here is who's gonna contact the sheriff's department and say, please get a hold of the,
I just can't believe that the sheriff's department hasn't driven past that car in the month and a half that we've had the parking ordinance in effect. Or even in
Pat.
the month since this snow the big snow happened, the heavy wet snow, you know. Anyway,
I mean, it's fine that you ask that the plow drivers call in if they have an instance where they think it's a problem, but that shouldn't be the only means to get something taken care of. You know.
'cause then it just puts the onus on the plow drivers and they're doing
Yeah,
their job.
yeah.
They're trying to do their job.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a hazardous situation where a plow driver does want to call it in and says, this
Right.
is a problem. But-
Absolutely.
But you don't want to rely on that as being the only means
no.
to get compliance or get somebody to take some action.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to all the people that are following the rule and working hard
Yeah,
to
it's awesome.
get their vehicles moved and do the right thing.
Should have done this years ago.
It is appreciated.
It's awesome.
Okay, anything else? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Yay.
7:00.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Night, Chris, thank you.
Bye-bye.